You can see how it just collapses after it's hit there, almost in slow motion there. Wow, it's incredible to see.
Most definitely incredible.
I have to say, though, if you take a look at that video, it is truly a gripping type of video. Even some of the media here are just so shocked to be looking at that.
It's hard to believe something when you see it on a video, but when you see it for real, okay, then you know it's reality.
The first thing I noticed when the sun started to go up is just over to the side of that, you can see the ramp where that was leading to the bridge, and you can see there's no more bridge there. It's just heartbreaking. You can see just where it ends. You can see what's left of the key bridge. At least we've got daylight now.
We will get through this because that is the Maryland spirit. And that's what Maryland is made of. We are Maryland tough, and we are Baltimore strong.
Tonight, a WJZ News special, The Key Bridge, 1 year later.
Welcome to this WJZ special, The Key Bridge, 1 year later. I'm Denise Koch. It was 1 year ago today that the magnificent Francis Scott Key Bridge, the gateway to Baltimore for almost half a century, was struck by an enormous cargo ship and sent plunging into the Patapsco River below. Also, 8 men who were working on the bridge at the time, 6 of them did not survive. It is a moment in time that many of us will never forget. Many of you, I imagine, will never forget. Tonight, we will pay homage to those men who lost their lives. We will also look back on the bridge and look forward to what may come. We have a team of reporters around the area, team coverage, but we're going to begin with Mike Helgren, who is live for us in Fort Armstead. Mike?
Denise, it is a chilly, windy day here along the Patapsco, just as it was 1 year ago, and we all have our own memories of that unforgettable day. The disbelief that the bridge was gone, the grief over those who lost their lives, and the relief that more lives were not lost in this tragedy. We are still waiting for the NTSB investigation into why the dolly lost power, blacking out several times and slamming into the bridge. There's also an open FBI criminal investigation. Here now is a look at that tragic day and the major developments over the past year. For 47 years, the Francis Scott Key Bridge stood as the gateway to the port and a landmark for Baltimore, one of the longest steel truss bridges in the world. Until it collapsed in seconds, just before 1:30 in the morning on March 26, 2024.
Is that the Key Bridge that collapsed?
The Dolly, a cargo ship bound for Sri Lanka, lost power and crashed into one of the main support piers, sending members of a construction crew filling potholes on the bridge into the frigid Patapsco River.
You would have stopped them from going to work if you had known.
So they're in the water, but they haven't got them out of the water yet.
Only one survived. He clung to a piece of steel in the water after escaping his work truck.
He was able to roll down the window and escape. You can imagine how frightening that is.
Body camera video shows him miraculously walking to safety after his rescue.
I mean, that guy looked like he was all right, but it's cold.
He was shaking up pretty good.
That's a long fall.
In the light of day, it was hard to comprehend what happened. Brian Retz with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. What was in your mind when you first saw all the debris and were out there and could see close up what had happened?
The video and pictures that you saw didn't do anything justice for it. You had to really physically see it. And you just were in awe of it because it didn't look real, but it was real.
From the water, you can see some of the mangled steel and concrete that remain in the Patapsco River. It's going to be a huge job to get all of that out. But crews wasted no time, developing a plan to map out and remove thousands of tons of debris and carefully retrieve the bodies of the victims. A dangerous job in the murky water.
Just a couple inches beyond my fingertips.
There's a lot of debris, there's rebar, there's concrete, and a lot of the times for our first dives, we don't know what dangers are down there.
Then Unified Command, made up of multiple state and federal agencies, prioritized opening the channel, clearing the steel and asphalt piece by piece,
to get the Port of Baltimore open again.
And when we started pulling up these pieces, they were enormous, some 50, 80 feet long of wreckage that was still tied together and mangled. So we knew that there are steel members below the mudline that we have to continue to pull out.
This is the largest piece of debris from what was the Key Bridge, the steel that had stood there since 1977. It will soon be part of a memorial at Fort McHenry.
For weeks, the dolly sat in the Patapsco, the lanes of the bridge draped across it, the crew forced to stay on board.
We were able to purchase SIM cards and get them out to them within the first few days. That way they can maintain contact with family back home and assure family and loved ones that they were okay.
It would be 2 months before controlled explosions removed the largest pieces of the bridge from the ship, and yet another month before the dolly left Baltimore. It's since been refurbished and is back on the water in China. But some of the crew members remain in Baltimore in legal limbo.
The monotony of just sitting can wear on you, so that's kind of why we're trying to do baseball games and trips here and there, just to keep them from becoming bored and then starting to ruminate on the incident and have that affect their mental health.
Lawsuit after lawsuit is on a slow march through the courts.
This, of course, may be the most expensive maritime case in the history of the world.
Including a federal claim seeking more than $100 million, saying the tragedy was entirely avoidable and blaming cheap, quick fixes to the ship's electrical system. All while the dolly's owners try to limit their liability to a fraction of that, and the NTSB continues its investigation into what went wrong.
So there's no excuse.
Last week, the agency released an eye-opening report blaming the state for failing to conduct a recommended assessment that would have shown the bridge was vulnerable to a strike. Federal investigators found the chances of a vessel striking the Key Bridge were 30 times the recommended threshold, and the Chesapeake Bay Bridge is at risk too.
We asked, had you done this vulnerability assessment on the Key Bridge? The answer was no. We then asked, are you doing this vulnerability assessment on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge? The answer is no.
There's not a bridge in this country that could have taken that kind of impact. And so we are going to make sure we're cooperating with the NTSB to get all the assessments done. But also, I'm going to make sure that those reckless operators are held to account for the tragedy that happened to our state.
Soon, a new bridge will rise over the Patapsco, but memories of Baltimore's landmark have not faded, along with the pain of the families who lost their loved ones that fateful day.
I feel bad. Only God knows how hard my heart aches. Maybe he was desperate, trying to escape.
It took mere seconds to bring down the Key Bridge, changing lives, changing our city forever.
You want to see the new bridge come up, and you want to see things get back to normal, although it really won't in certain ways, especially for those that had loved ones lost. And it will change the landscape of Baltimore forever.
It certainly will. Traffic at the Port of Baltimore has since rebounded, and it's having one of its best years ever in terms of cargo volume. The NTSB's full investigation into the dolly should be released in the fall, and the new bridge will cost close to $2 billion. We'll have more on that ahead. Denise?
All right. Terrific report. Thank you so much, Mike.